Welcome to Gifted Underachievers, the podcast for mid-level creatives with delusional ambitions. In this segment, James is overcome by an existential sensation of why bother while submitting short stories to literary magazines. This then leads to a larger discussion of how creatives overcome negative emotions around whether what we do is worth the effort, especially if we feel that gatekeepers could care less. One answer? View our individual pieces as a minimum viable product. Hey, Pat.
Yes, James.
So I'm sending out some short stories to literary journals. And do you feel like copious use of the word pussy in the opening of a story is a bad idea?
Is it about a cat?
No.
Well,
It's about a couple. They've come home from a party. They're drunk. They're feeling, a little rambunctious, a little giddy around each other.
they're gonna do some stuff. Well, I would say it's not inappropriate depending on who you send it to. So if you send it to Reader's Digest, it's inappropriate.
Right, right. So that brings up the larger question,
Mm.
right? So I was in the act of looking at some literary journals. I had recently received a list from Sub Club, which is a Substack group, very helpful. Of literary journals that are open.
Yeah.
And so I'm going through the list and I'm looking at these various things. And I'm working through to send off the first submission. And I just had this deep gut feeling of why bother? This is
Ooh.
useless.
Yeah. The deep gut
Yeah.
feeling of why bother. It was in your gut. It was in your body.
Yeah, it was almost like a full, yeah, I mean, there was just this moment of, you're in your usual kind of mode, right? Where,
Hmm.
where you're thinking about you're thinking about where you're going to send it, who's going to receive it. You're kind of going through your routine, and then all of a sudden, I just had this sensation of why bother?
Wow. Ah. What did you do right after? Did you stop?
No, I sent two submissions out anyway.
Yeah.
Because, why bother is, even if your likelihood of success is equivalent to that of winning the lottery, at least you're in the game, right?
Yeah.
And so you gotta keep things going. But yeah, I just had this sensation of, the world of literary journals, for the most part, just doesn't feel like they're looking for what I'm putting out, right?
Well, there's
And
that. There is that, and I don't want to discount that. The thing that popped into my mind about the why bother is that they are all struggling to stay afloat.
yeah,
They are not really, I would say not. Now, many of them who don't have a really strong reader base are not going to survive. And so why bother is much more practical. Not so
mm,
much, oh, does my stuff mean anything to anybody besides me or besides, me and other people who don't run literary journals, but is sending work to literary journals even that sending work to literary journals that you do not know that well and that you do not have a history with or a publication with, is that even worth your time, like the 10, 15, 30, whatever, how many minutes it takes, or
yeah,
should you be doing something else with your stories? And
right.
you know, because that's your options. You could be turning them into other things. You could be screenplaying some of them. You could be self-publishing a book of collected short stories. You could be
Mhm,
targeting a small press with a collection of the ones that make the most sense. And
mhm.
so there are lots of options aside from spending that time putting stories out into a dying ecosystem.
Yeah, and whether it's dying or evolving and it's, in a sort of a low spot, I don't know, but there is this, I guess this sort of multiple forces acting on me to feel that way. So
Yeah.
one, I looked at my submittable page, which, most places now go through submittable.
Hmm.
And there's stories that have been at places for a year or more,
Yeah. And
right?
no, they're not rejected, they're not accepted. They're just
Yeah, and
go
the
out.
little thing says either in process or received, right?
Yeah.
There's no like, you know, nothing.
Yeah.
And so so there's that, right? Like you're sending it out into a void.
Yeah.
And then there's the amount of time it takes, the effort, all that kind of stuff, and the return just isn't working. Three, I think there is uh you know, they're looking for a different type of story and a different type of writer.
Hmm.
And so maybe there's a piece of me, part of me that in that moment is like, hey, you just gotta wake up to this fact.
Hmm. Hmm.
Like, I mean, I do succeed, I get published, but it's not a lot and it's not frequently. And so that has now got me to thinking, all right, so I have this material, you know, maybe I shouldn't be relying on literary journals. Maybe there's another avenue.
I think there is. There's got the literary journals, whether they're in a nadir or they're actually dying, it's sort of immaterial. Right now, they are not, they don't exist for writers.
Mhm.
They don't, they're not, they exist for some writers, obviously, but they do
I would
not,
say readers too, because
yeah,
they're
they're
all,
hard for
scraping.
readers to connect with. There's a lot of drivel, I'm just being subjective, but whatever. Um, to me, they're not, they're not in the game. Like they're not part of the conversation. And I know they probably believe they are. And actually, I shouldn't blanket statement that. There are some really good literary journals that are part of a conversation. Um, but they're few and far enough between that your odds of getting into them are slim, regardless of how you write and what you write. It's just a numbers game. They get tens of thousands of submissions a year, and you've got two of them are yours or three of them are yours. So
Yeah.
I do think, what if you took your eye off that ball for a while and actually tried a different path to getting those stories in front of readers? And so what do you think about that?
I couldn't agree more. Absolutely could not agree more. And I'm not sure what that path would be,
Hmm.
but I think maybe the point of this is, so one, it's not bad to send things out to literary journals, right?
Yeah.
So it's not a bad thing.
Hmm.
But I've been relying on that and these gatekeepers, and sort of with this idea that they're a gatekeeper between me and an audience,
Uh-huh.
right? But when you look at the readership for a lot of these journals, it's not that big.
It's
It's
tiny. Some of them are tiny.
tiny.
Yeah.
So they're not really gatekeeping, for a rather large audience. So, and I think I want to, to try and broaden this out. How do we as creatives find ways around the gatekeepers to find bigger audiences,
Well, I mean, to
more
me,
receptive?
yeah, just using your example. So you've got stories. I don't know if they work as a collection because I haven't read them as a collection, but let's say they do. Let's say
Mhm.
you took whatever time you spend, maybe it's an hour a month or 5 hours a month, I have no idea. Whatever time you spend pitching small presses, what if you used that time instead, took 1 month of it to look at your inventory, improve any stories that need to be improved, build them into a cohesive short story manuscript and pitch something like Paul Dry Press, which takes unagented submissions
Right.
and does have the sort of stuff that you write. They do publish that kind of stuff. So
Hmm.
what if you just pitched it to them and see what happens? You know?
Yeah. No, I think that's, absolutely yes. Yes. But now, reflecting on another segment, we talked about minimum viable product, right?
Yeah.
So if I see each of these stories as a minimum viable product,
Yeah.
what can I do? How can I rethink or change my my thinking, think differently about these individual stories
Well,
to put them out.
can I make a suggestion?
Yeah, absolutely. Because I'm, looking for ideas.
Well, you could enter contests um,
Mhm.
with them. You could like there's some newspapers, I know that sounds weird, in Canada, okay, very small market of 40 million, who will pay 2,500 bucks to the winner of a 2,500 word contest, story contest, on a theme,
Mhm.
usually, often on a theme. What if you had something in there that fit the Christmas one for blah blah, and you sent that in and you got third prize and it's maybe 500 bucks, whatever. At least people are reading your shit, you know? Like
Yeah.
like there's other, there isn't a lot of print um there aren't a lot of print options for short stories that don't involve a publication of some kind. So I think you're looking at
Yeah.
either small presses or contests or like specific to being published, in a print organ, or just contests where you win the fucking contest, and you get 500 bucks, or like it's
Mhm.
300, whatever, 20 or copies. It's a different way of putting throwing your spaghetti at the wall. Does it make sense? It's better than doing the same thing and expecting different results.
Right. Yeah.
Is it a minimum viable product? What if you took your very best five stories and just focused on that, entering them into the most appropriate contests, and then
Yeah.
you made a collection, and you don't need to. I still haven't seen your book on ghostwriting, you know? So you'd
Yeah.
actually have to do this, and pitched Paul Dry.
Yeah. Well, again, it's, yes to creating a book of them, and that's, always ultimately the goal. But, I'm thinking, how can I go more directly to a reading audience?
Okay, so what's your idea?
And so, well, it's sort of formulating, right? And so there's two pieces. One, take say three stories, right?
Mhm.
Refine them, that kind of thing, and then sell them as, like e-stories
Oh, like a
for
chapbook sort of?
Kindle or something, right? So
Yeah.
it's just one story and charge like 99 cents for one story,
Yeah, so self-publish.
right? So
Yeah.
self-publish, say through, Kindle kind
Yeah.
of thing. And then, work on ways to try and get the word out that, hey, this story is there.
Hmm.
And then the other is trying to find opportunities to read in front of audiences.
Yeah, those are both good ones too.
And I think that's where I'm leaning is that um you know yes, I could take, the group, and I am working on this collected idea,
Hmm.
uh and so these individual pieces are part of a larger whole.
Hmm.
But, you know, part of getting that larger whole to succeed, I've been thinking if I can get these smaller pieces published in literary journals, that would help. But maybe the way to prove the audience is to take it directly to the audience.
I would
And I
say.
need to figure out a way to do that. And so the two immediate ideas that I've had are, produce these individual Kindle stories, sell them for like 99 cents, right?
Yeah.
Some very nominal amount.
Yeah.
And then trying to find ways to get in front of an audience to read.
Yeah. And we talked about this in previous segments about how to build your audience, how to find your audience. And so, live readings, you live near a university, they have shit going on all the time. Most university campuses will have some kind of art scene happening. Or, you're near Boston, there's probably some literary event. There's an open mic aspect to it. So yeah, I would do both of those. And the thing about live readings is it helps you hone your material.
Right.
And then if you do self-publish those stories, they're out of the running to enter contests or pitch to a publisher, but you could potentially sell them to the people you read to.
Yeah. Well, you can use them. They can still go to a publisher as a collection, right?
Yes, exactly. Even if you
Yeah.
self-publish. Yeah. Yeah.
Um, you know, but and I think that's the thing is, there's a gatekeeper. It's not working. I've run into the same brick wall over and over, and so I want to try and get find some way to speak directly to readers as
Oh,
opposed to, relying on, somebody else to facilitate that.
I think it makes a lot of sense. I wish you luck. Are you going to do it?
I'm going to do it.
Get your other book up. What's going on with that?
Well, I've been focusing on the creative work.
The book you already wrote isn't creative?
Well, it's not really already written.
Okay, okay, let's not get into that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I've
All right.
got, the writing book and,
That's the one I'm talking about.
that can go. So I've been sitting on that. But for my, trying to get this fiction thing going.
Yeah. Okay. Good luck.
Thank you.
Let us know what happens.
I will. I certainly will. I'm a complainer at heart.
We're not here to complain.
Yeah.
I was talking to somebody who, I don't know, I was maybe just feeling like, all right, whatever. We were just talking and I asked a question and they said, I'm not here to complain. That was so great. That's so great. So many people are here to complain.
Yeah. All right. Well, no, I'll be here to, to say, guess what happened?
Yeah, perfect. All right. We'll check in. What's our timeline?
1 month.
What? Okay, 1 month.
Yeah. Well, it's not. It takes a little time.
Oh no, I thought it would be like 6 months because to go to a live reading and have a reading in the next month, that's pretty great.
Yeah. Well, I'm thinking more about, it's a lot easier to get the e-story idea up and running.
Oh, for sure. Those are easy. Yeah. Okay. 1 month.
Yeah. And then I've got a place, so I get that up and running, and if I can find places to read, then I can say, hey, this is available at.
Yeah.
So, all right, we'll see what happens.
I'm applauding your get up and go-ishness.
Yeah.
And also the fact that even though you're saying what you had this visceral experience of why bother, you used it as motivation to try something else instead of just living with it and going, well, it sucks. Maybe I'll quit.
Yeah. Well, it only took about 30 years. So.
Slow learner. Thomas
Yeah.
Pitchon. Yeah. Awesome.
All right. Thanks for listening to Gifted Underachievers, the podcast for mid-level creatives with delusional ambitions. First, a few questions related to this segment. 1. How do you get past negative emotions? 2. Nihilism? 3. What keeps you going and where can we all get some of that? In the meanwhile, we'd love to hear how we're doing, so please leave a comment, join our chat page, or send us an email at giftedunderachievers@substack.com. You can find us on Spotify, iTunes, and anywhere else you like to download your podcasts. And please hit the share and or subscribe button. It really does help. Thank you, and have an awesome day.